In this set of video tutorials, we're going to learn some of the amazing shortcuts in Excel which will not only help you on a day-to-day tasks but significantly reduce time and help you in terms of working efficiently. Now, we will divide our shortcuts into 6 different categories. Formatting shortcuts. Since we will only concentrate on the top shortcuts which are really used on day-to-day activities, we will only discuss 5 here. For the navigation shortcuts, from moving from one place to another place in the worksheet, we'll learn 10 most important shortcuts here. How to go about selecting a row or a column, or selecting a cell. These are the 7 shortcuts that we will learn. How we can copy and paste data, how we can cut and kind of use that data. We will learn all these in working with data, and I'll teach you 8 shortcuts in that. We'll also understand the etiquettes of workbook basics, how to save your workbook, essentially how you can open your workbook, how can you include a new workbook likewise. So there are 11 shortcuts, and last but not the least, we will also discuss some of the formula shortcuts which are very relevant to save your time. So let's move on to the first set of shortcut, which is the formatting shortcut. Now let us learn the top 5 formatting shortcuts. The first shortcut is bolding the selection. So let's say if I am typing a text, let's say we type ABC. Now if you want to bold the selection, what you need to do is you need to press Ctrl and B so that it gets bolded. So if you want to unbold it, you can again press Ctrl and B so that it gets unbolded. So bold, unbold, bold, unbold, Ctrl and B. Likewise, Ctrl is used to italicize your selection, so it can be done by Ctrl and I. If you press Ctrl I again, it will become a normal selection. So if you want to italicize, Ctrl and I, and otherwise Ctrl and I to go back to where you came from. If you want to underline the selection, Ctrl and U. So you will find that the text gets underlined here. Ctrl and U. Likewise, let's say if you want to format this cell further and look at even advanced features, you can press Ctrl and 1. The moment you press Ctrl and 1, you will find that this dialog box opens up, and this dialog box provides you with different kinds of options in terms of formatting. If you want to change the alignment, if you want to change the font, borders, fill option, you want to protect the cell, these are the general things which you can do when you open the dialog box. So let me open the dialog box again by using this shortcut Ctrl and 1. Okay, so remember these control keys, this is the main thing. And last but not the least, let's say if you have some number 0.23 and you want to change this quickly into percentage, one approach is that you can directly come here and click on percentage. The other shortcut which is very significantly used in some cases is Control Shift and percentage. So it gets converted into percentage automatically. So let me go back again. Control Shift and a percentage sign. So what happens is your decimal gets converted into percentage format. So this is how you can learn the top 5 shortcuts. Now let us learn some navigation shortcuts. Essentially, navigation shortcuts means that how you can maneuver between the worksheet Excel from left side to right side, and essentially between the worksheets from one worksheet to another worksheet. So there would be 10 commands or 10 shortcuts which we will learn in this. The first one is Control Page Down. And what this means is you need to move to the next worksheet in the workbook. So say for example, if I am right now on the navigation worksheet and I want to move from navigation worksheet to the workbook basics worksheet, what I normally do is I use my mouse and go to the workbook basics and click. So this is how I change my worksheet. So let me go back to the navigation worksheet and see how this formula works. Control Page Down to move to the next worksheet, and look at the other one, Control Page Up to move to the previous worksheet. So if I want to move from navigation to formatting, Control Page Up, and if I want to move to the next worksheet, control page down. So let's do it once, control and page down. So I'm now taken to the workbook basics worksheet. Let's say I want to go back to the navigation worksheet. I will use control and page up. So in this way I come back to my original sheet. Let me go to formatting worksheet. So which command we will use? This will be control and page up. So I'm now into the previous worksheet. Now let me go back to the navigation worksheet. I'll use control and page down. So in this way you can use these two set of commands which are very easy to use. The third one which you probably are already using is the arrow keys. So instead of using your mouse to move from one place to another place, you can actually use the arrow keys: top arrow, down arrow, right arrow, and the left arrow. So you can use these arrow keys. So this is another keystroke which you must use. Now another thing which is important, let's say, is control and an arrow key. If you want to move to the edge location means, let's say if I'm here, I want to move to cell number 4. How can I do that? Control and a left arrow. So I will move directly to the edge location. Let's say from number 4 I want to move back here. I can do that by using one by one arrow keys, or I can jump directly by pressing control and that right arrow key here. So let me do that, control and a right arrow. I directly get transferred to the edge location of the worksheet. Let me press a control and a up arrow. What will happen is I will move to the top here, control and a up arrow, because I need to move to the edge location at the top. What happens if I press control and a down arrow? I will move to the edge location again towards the bottom. So control and down arrow. So this is how you can use your keystroke function with control and arrow. Now if you want to move to the beginning of the row, let's say you are here and you want to move to the beginning of the row, you can use just click on home. So you go back to your beginning of the row. Let's say if I'm here and I want to go back to the home, I can directly come by pressing home button. Okay, what happens if I press control and home? I move to the beginning of the worksheet. So navigation shortcuts, it's written A1. So this is where I move up. Let's say I'll try this function again. If let's say this is where my cell is, and if I press control and home, I go back to my navigation shortcuts. So this is really useful because many a times you have a lot of data in your worksheets and you may be working in, let's say, 800th or 900th line number, and you want to go to the top of the worksheet. On one side you may be tempted to use your scroll bar. On the other side, if you are really aware of these shortcuts, you can just press control and home so that you can move up the ladder and use and save a lot of time here. So this is control and home. What about control and end? This end function is on the right hand side of the home, control and end. So what happens here? It takes us to the used portion of the worksheet. It moves to the end of the used portion of the worksheet. So let's say if I'm on the navigation shortcut, if I press, let's say, control and end, it takes me to the end of the used portion of the worksheet. Okay, now this would be very simple because you are already using it. Let's say if I'm here, if I type some number, I can press enter to move down a cell in a range. So this is how I can use this shortcut. What happens if I press shift and enter? I move up the chain, shift and enter. So if I want to move up, shift and enter. And what happens if I use shift and tab? I move to the left of the text or the cell. So let's say shift and tab, I move to the left of this text. So from B15 I'm moving to A15. So if I want to move from this cell to this cell here, I can use shift tab to maneuver in the left hand side. So this is how you can use the navigation shortcuts. Now let us look at some of the amazing workbook basic shortcuts. So they are listed here. Control and O for open a workbook. So let me press Control and O. What happens when I do that? Control and O. So the moment I do that, you can see that it opens a dialog box and allows me to open an Excel sheet. So this is how I can open a dialog box and open an Excel sheet using this shortcut. Let's say if I want to create a new workbook, just press Control and N. So the moment I do that, you can see this is a new workbook that comes. This is book 3. So a new workbook can be opened using Control and N. If I want to save my workbook, Control and S. This is one of the commands which you will be using very frequently, or you must have a habit of saving your document very frequently, because unfortunately many a times if Excel crashes, you will have your last saved version for your perusal. So Control and S. So I'm doing that, though it may not be visible here at the screen, but Control and S will really help you save your workbook. Print a workbook, Control and P. So let me do that, Control and P. The moment I do this, you can see everything opens up and you can just need to press OK. So this is Control and P for printing a workbook. If you want to close this workbook, Control and W. However, I'm not going to do that here because I'm just explaining you the concept. I'm still working on other set of functions. Control and W is what you need to do when you want to close a workbook. If you want to insert a new worksheet, these are worksheets. So if you want to insert, you can do it from here. Shift F11 is again the shortcut, as you can see at the bottom. Shift and F11, that's what I will be pressing. So a new sheet opens up. Okay, so this is what you can also use to save a lot of time. Another command which is really useful is hiding a selected row. Let's say I want to hide the cell or this row. If I want to hide this row, I can do that by choosing this. I can, in a traditional way, right click and choose hide. So the cell between 1 and 3 gets hidden. If I want to unhide, I can choose these two cells, right click and unhide. So this is a regular way in which you can hide and unhide your cells. But the formulas which are provided here is Control and 9 and Control Shift and 9. So let me see how it works. Let's select this row, Control and 9. So this is a shortcut for hiding these cells, and if you want to unhide these cells, you can select these two rows and press Control Shift and 9. Okay, so this is how you can use these hide and unhide options. Let us do the same thing for the columns. So if I want to hide the column here, let's say, so what is the function? I can, in a traditional way, right click on this and hide the column, and if I want to unhide it, I select these two columns in tandem, right click and unhide. So this is how you can do that in a traditional way. Let us apply shortcuts. Shortcut is Control and 0. So 9 and 0 are placed next to each other in the keyboard, so it's very easy to identify. Control and 0. So this column gets hidden, and Control Shift and 0 to unhide your columns. So this is a very amazing function which helps you to hide and unhide your columns and rows. Another useful function which you will find it really useful is, which you must use many a times when you are working on important reports. Run a spelling check on a worksheet or a selected text. What you need to do is just click on F7. The moment you do that, your Microsoft Excel has an inbuilt feature which goes through a spell check inside your worksheet. So it prompts you if in case it finds there are issues associated with spelling mistakes. So F7 again is a very useful function, and try to use it as regularly as possible. Let us now move to the selection shortcuts and learn these top 7 shortcuts. So the first one is basically Shift and space bar. How can we go about selecting a row? The traditional way is that you can use your mouse and just click on a row which you want to select. However, the other way could be to use your shortcuts. So that would be just use shift and space bar. Let's say if I want to select this row number 8, shift and space bar. So by this you are selecting the full row. Now look at number 2 and number 3 shortcuts. After selecting a row, if you want to insert a row, this is control and plus and control and minus to delete a row. So say for example, if let me create a couple of rows here or data points. If I want to insert a row in between, I can select this row first, shift and space bar, and control and plus in order to insert a row. So this is how I can go about inserting a row. Inserting a row consists of two parts. One, choose the function, choose the row, shift and space bar, and then control and plus. If I want to delete a row, it's basically after you have selected the row, you can choose control and a minus sign. So this is how you can go about deleting the row. So we have looked at selecting a row, inserting a row, and deleting a row. Now what about the column? So let me do the data population here in this set of columns. Control and space bar. So if I want to select this column, the shortcut is very simple, control and space bar. For the row, you can see the difference. It was shift and space bar. Here it is control and space bar. So what if I want to insert a column? Just press control and plus after selecting the column. And if I want to delete a column, look at control and a minus sign. So you can do that very seamlessly if you use these set of shortcuts. Sometimes I want to kind of format a full worksheet and select the entire worksheet from top to bottom, left to right at once. So this may also be a very tedious task. Sometimes you can also look at using your mouse and just selecting from the top here. So this will select the full worksheet area, and you want to select the full worksheet, you can just press Ctrl and A to select the full worksheet. So what I was doing by clicking here using a mouse, I can achieve the same thing by pressing Ctrl and A. So these are the selection shortcuts which are very useful. Now let us look at the top 8 shortcuts while we work with data. The first one, which is enter, is very familiar. When you're typing anything, let's say a number, you can just type it and press enter to move to the next cell. So this function is very easy to understand. The interesting one could be the second one, in fact, alt and enter. So insert a new line within a cell. What does this mean? Let's say if I am typing some data, let's say something like a text, working with data, and if I press enter now without the alt, what happens is I am taken to the next cell. So from cell number C13 to cell number C14, this is what happens. But let's say if I want to go back and now I press alt enter, what happens is it inserts a new line within a cell. So this function also becomes very useful. Let's say I want to write 8 functions here. So the 8 functions is written within this cell, and if you just format this a bit, you can see it is properly written in a text format. So you can insert a new line within a cell using this. Let's say if I want to edit a cell, in fact I use this shortcut very frequently, which is F2. So I want to, let's say, edit the cell and write I want to delete this 8 functions. I can do that by double clicking in the cell and selecting this and deleting it. That is what I can do. However, I can also press F2. F2 is basically I want to enable the editing within the cell. So just choose any cell, press F2, and you're taken inside the cell. So you can do all your editing within the cell. Say for example, again I go back to 25000. I want to edit this cell, press F2 and do your editing and press enter. So this is how you can use this function, which is F2, which is very simple to understand and use. Control C is copy and Control V is paste. I think the most important function would be these within the working with data class. Control and C, I want to copy number 25 and paste it here. Control C, once I do the copy, you can see this selection area gets highlighted, and what happens, Control and V will enable me to paste the content. So Control and V, the moment I do that, the same content gets pasted in the selected cell. So I want to paste it here, Control and V. So Control C, Control V. What is the difference between Control C and Control X? Cut the selected text or object to the clipboard. So let's say now I am pressing Control X to understand what is cut. Control and X. Now let me paste it here and see what happens. Control and V is for the paste. So what happens is it gets cut from the original location and it gets pasted to the new location. So very helpful command if you don't want to duplicate the content like this. You can just Control X cut and Control V, which is paste. This is how you can really work. Control and Y, which means repeat the last action. Okay, so let me show you here. Let's say the last action is I've chosen this number 25 and I have made this in blue font. So this is my last action. So if I want to redo the same thing for this new number 25, I may do it from here, or I can use this shortcut called Control Y. So let me do it, Control and Y. The moment I press this Control Y, the last action gets repeated again. I can do the same thing for this 25, Control and Y. So repeat the last action. And very important function again, Control and Z. Undo the last edit. So if I have, let's say, edited these in blue, and if I want to undo it, what can I do? I can actually use this from the top, which is the undo font or undo button. So I can press these, or I can use the shortcut, which is Control and Z or Control Z. Control Z, if I do for the first time, the most recent will get undone. If I press Control Z again, the second last one will get undone, and so on and so forth. Control Z is to undo the last edit. Very helpful function. So these are the top 8 functions for the working with data shortcuts. I hope you remember these. Here we will learn the top 3 formula shortcuts. One is, if I want to write the formula, I can actually go at the top and start insert function. So I can do that, and an equal to sign comes by default. So this is how a formula can be written in a traditional way. However, if I want to begin a formula, I can just type equal to and start typing the formula. So though many of you may use it by default, it is again a very important shortcut. The other thing is, let's say if I want to cancel an entry which I am making in the cell. Say for example, I am writing something like this, formula shortcuts, and I have not yet pressed enter. So I want to cancel an entry. I don't want to write this. So there are two approaches. I can press enter and then go back and delete it. This is what I can do. Or let's say if I am writing this formula shortcuts, and if I have not yet pressed enter, I can actually press an escape button, ESC, at the top left hand corner of your keyboard. Escape. So whatever I have made in terms of the entry, that will go away. This is a very useful function. The second function here was the alt and equal to. So insert a sum, auto sum formula. So it's very useful. Let's say if I want to sum total this series here, 4, 5, 6 and 3. Now I can do this in a very traditional way. I can actually go at the top and choose this auto sum. Okay, so the moment I do this, the formula bar will come and I just need to press enter. So the sum total will be 18. The second approach is I can go back and press equal to, and a sum, bracket open, and choose this range and close the bracket. So again the sum total would be 18. Or the third approach, which is more effective, is choosing a alt equal to sign. So alt equal to sign would mean doing an auto sum in a much more efficient way. I don't have to actually use a mouse to click on auto sum. I can immediately do that using my keyboard. So very efficient function here. So overall, if you have looked at, in this set of video series, we have learned around 44 most important basic Excel functions. I hope you try to make the most of it. All the very best.